Hello, welcome, I'm Chris and this is the Naked Hair Guy channel, and on this channel I expose the tips and tricks that are going to help you get the best out of your hairdressing career. So whether you're returning or whether you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification button. On this week's video I'm going to be looking at long layers and doing a step-by-step to walk you through the best possible way to do it. Hope you enjoy! Okay, so as you can see, we're going to be using our head block to cut the long layer on, and the first thing you're probably going to notice is I'm not going to start by cutting my one length. And the reason behind that is just because at the minute everybody wants to keep the length, as much length as possible. You know, you've got clients going, I only want this much off and no more. So I'm actually going to cut the one length right at the end of the haircut, and even once it's dried, and that's going to give me the ability then just to trim off as little as possible when the client sort of is watching you do that, right? The other thing is tools. Obviously we're going to be using our section clips and our scissors. If you haven't seen my scissor video, I'm going to link that up above. So if you want some advice on what scissors are best to use, then that video is going to help you. The other thing is sectioning. Always keep your sectioning nice and clean, neat and tidy. It's really important. It enables you to follow the haircut really precisely, and if at any point you can't see your guide, going back with nice clean sections so that you can follow your guide. I'm also going to be blunt cutting this. You could point cut it, you could razor it, the principle is exactly the same, but I'm just going to do a nice blunt cut just so you can see the effect on that. So I've sectioned up my first section, and everything on this haircut is going to pivot from this one point. I'm going to put up some head sheets as I go along, so hopefully if you can't see it very well, the head sheets are going to guide you, or you can always print them off and have a look at them later. But this central point is where we are going to be doing basically the whole haircut from. Every section is going to pivot from this one point. So I've taken my first section from there down through the occipital into the nape of the neck, and I'm going to take my first section now. Okay, so I'm going to elevate this section up to 180 degrees. You'll see a lot of hairdressers pulling sections and then sort of letting them drop, okay, and cutting them like that. Again, if you're an experienced hairdresser, that's fine. If you're just starting out, keeping the tension on the hair really is going to help you being able to follow the haircut and follow the guide. Now hopefully what you're going to see as well is the length dropping out. So once that length drops out, you know you're safe, you know you've kept that client's length. So we'll elevate this up to 180 degrees, so right up on the top of the head. Okay, you start to see the length coming out. Now you can see that at the moment my fingers are at 90 degrees. So if I was to cut that, then what you would get is a lot of layering. If you want to keep the layers softer and blending in more to the length, all you do is you simply elevate your fingers and cut at a reversed 45 degrees. And that's what we're going to do here. So if you can't get the whole section as well in one go, then break it down into smaller, more manageable sections, so that you can get everything within your fingers. I've got quite large fingers and I take quite large sections as well. So we're going to elevate that up. We're going to find how much layering we actually want to put into the haircut. So I'll elevate that up. I'm then going to angle my fingers to a reverse 45 degrees. My length has dropped out, and then I'm then going to cut that into the haircut. We're going to start working on this side of the head, and I'm going to take my next section. So I'm not coming across the head, I'm using that as my central pivot point, and I'm going to put my comb in, and I'm going to take a small section down again into the nape of the neck and take another section. Get this right out of the way, keep it nice and clean so you can see what you're doing. And again, elevate this up to 180 degrees. Now with this section that I've just taken, I'm going to over direct that section back to the previous section, so back to the middle. So each section we're going to slightly over direct it back to the previous. And again, what this means is that when we come round to the ears and we get less hair, it's just going to help us blend that through a lot easier as we go round the haircut. So you can see I've elevated it up, the baseline is dropping out. I find my guide. If you can't at any point see your guide, then take a smaller section and we're simply going to cut. Before I take my next section is I'm going to take the first section out because I no longer need that. You can put a clip in that if you want to. So now I'm going to take another section and I'm going to over direct it back to this section. So like I said, each time we're coming from this point down, taking like a cake or an orange segment of hair, and we're over directing it back just to the previous section. So what we'll get is a nice soft layer and a nice soft blend through the haircut as we do it. So again, elevate, your baseline is going to drop out. As we elevate, we're going to over direct it back to previous. I'm pulling it right up to 180 degrees and keeping my tension, finding my guide and just following that down. So just remember, the angled your fingers are, the softer and the less hair you'll take off. The squarer to 90 you bring your fingers, the more layering you'll put through the haircut, but also as well the more sort of chunky the layers will be. So again, going to break that section down, again pivoting from that point, not coming across the hair, pivoting from that point, so I can take that section out of the way. Take another section and over direct back to this one. And we're going to do that until we get to the ear, which is on this section. And when we get to the ear, we're going to stop and do the other side. So again, elevate it. You should start to see my elevation much clearer now. And then just over direct back to the previous section, find my guide and follow. Okay, so now you should see we're starting to get the layers, but keeping the length on the haircut. Now you could continue round, okay, but I like to do one side and then do the other side, especially if you've got a client sat in the seat and you've got the mirror to work off of. It just helps with the balance, because cross-checking this you can't, because obviously you're at an angle like that. So ideally what you're going to get is a V like this. So you can cross-check it by pulling your fingers up, but actually pulling it up and cross-checking is quite difficult. So there is a visual element to doing this, but as long as you follow your guide and as long as you follow the sections. So we've moved back around to the first side that we cut, and this was that last section just behind the ear that I cut. Now traditionally for many years what I used to do then was, as I worked through the front, I would take vertical sections down and over direct them back, and the thinner the hair is, the more you want to over direct back to behind the ear so that you don't take the corner off. But now what I do is I do forward diagonal sections. I'll put a diagram up in the corner for you as well to help follow, and as well as I'm going to show you. So this is still going to be my pivot point. Okay, so I am going to take a section from there forward to the front hairline. So as you can see, I've used this still as my pivot point, and I've come forward diagonal to my front hairline. I'm now going to again elevate this back to my previous section and to 45 degrees and just follow my guide. What I find this helps with is it not taking that corner off, okay, which again for many years when I very first started hairdressing I really struggled at doing. By doing a forward diagonal, this will help keep and maintain that corner. Back to my previous section, the guide should drop out. You should see it dropping out. If you don't, just double check. But there goes my length, and then I can see my guide coming through, and I simply follow that down to the haircut. Then again, I'm going to take another forward diagonal section, again keeping my sectioning clean, keep everything that you don't need out of the way. If at any point you lose your guide, simply go back a section. And again, you could just over direct back to the previous section, or you can over direct back further. That really depends on the thickness of the hair. Again, break the sections down into manageable sizes. I've got quite large hands, I can handle quite large sections. Elevate, angle your fingers to 45 and follow your guide. Again, forward diagonal. And as you come closer to the front, if they haven't already got layers in their hair, you're going to notice more hair coming off because you're cutting more internal layers, but you can see that I have the external length. So as long as I have my client's length, I know that all the hair that I'm cutting off is simply an internal layer, and you work that to the center or to wherever their parting will be, and then you repeat that on the opposite side. Like I said, because this is right at the front, because this section is right at the front and she hasn't currently got any layers in it, you're going to see that if I try and pick up this external length, it's going to drop straight out as I elevate to 180. There goes my length, there's my guide, and everything that I'm cutting off is an internal layer. I'm not removing my length, that's the internal layer through the haircut. And now I'm going to repeat that on the opposite side. Okay, so now I would dry this off. I would then go in and do my one length, and then I would soften it by texturizing it, point cutting those layers, slicing it using thinning scissors, however I was going to do that, and also I would frame around the face. Okay, so as you can see, we've blow dried our model off nice and straight, and now we would cut in our one length and take as little or as much off as the client wants, and then we'd go through and we'd texturize the haircut, whether we point cut or slice, just to add some texture and some definition if the client wants that. The final thing is the framing around the face. Now this is something that I struggled with when I first started hairdressing. I'd have clients, after I'd cut it, sitting in the mirror grabbing the points of their hair going, is it even? Is it even? So I'm just going to show you how I just quickly make sure that both sides are even and really just get a nice finish to the haircut. So as you can see, I've taken a triangle section out from either side of the parting, and now we're going to combine these two together and we're going to take them down and we're going to twist this section and cut it. Now the lower you hold the section, the blunter it will be. The higher you hold the section, the softer it will be. And again, you can either blunt cut or you can point cut, again, whether you want it sharper or whether you want it softer. So we're going to take this section and we're going to put our left fingers in and we're going to rotate half a turn. Then we're going to take our right fingers in and we're going to rotate it fully around, so we've put a twist in the hair. and then we're going to hold it back, and that's the line that we're going to cut straight, either blunt cut or point cut. So we're going to take this section and we're going to put our left fingers in, and we're going to rotate half a turn. Then we're going to take our right fingers in and we're going to rotate it fully around, so we've put a twist in the hair, and then we're going to hold it back, and that's the line that we're going to cut straight, either blunt cut or point cut. So now to connect this in, I've taken a back diagonal section and I'm simply going to use my guide point to connect this in. Again, the higher you hold this, the softer it will be. The lower and the more around the face you bring it, the blunter and the more solid the line will be. So again, it's really just deciding what you want to do, and again, you can blunt cut, you can point cut, or you can slide down through the hair. Then you would take your next section and again do a back diagonal, and simply just keep working through doing back diagonal sections until you've incorporated all the hair. And you have a nice layer that frames around the face, and then repeat on the opposite side. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It was my first cutting one, so please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification button. If you'd like to see any particular videos, whether they're cutting or colouring, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.